this? Or you can just take over to sharing the screen and it'll come up. Yep.
Can you hear me?
We have an echo, Greg.
All right. He's coming up to this so he can get this place his microphone, but you can share from that computer and just take over.
Right here.
Greg is going to take over the share and display his screen. There we go.
So this is more of a, can you hear me okay?
Are you hearing Greg?
Oh, you're muted. Because I'm presenting. Oh, here, let's try that again. Can you hear me? There's.
Well, I'll leave this microphone on. Should be allowing
It
you.
sounded pretty good through the other microphone when he was muted. So.
Can you hear me now? That's a yes. All right. Okay, so we can hear me? Yes.
Nicole, can you hear Greg? Greg, say something.
Hello, hello.
It's not the best.
How about now? Is this better?
Better?
Okay. Let me do this and yes. So basically, my user share is more of a something that I've been I started. I wanted to refresh some skills that I was struggling with some of my data modeling and just some typical or some very easy concepts that I just wanted to refresh my mind with and just learn, make sure I was doing what I thought I was doing and make it just refresh the concepts for myself. So I stumbled on across a video with Avi Singh over at learnpowerbi.com, and it was a really good just a webinar he was doing with a bunch of different just Power BI users across the world that he's working with. So, but he talked about his course. It's just learnpowerbi.com, and basically it had oh, sorry, I don't want to replay. Yeah, I do want to replay. So basically, you know, it's an overview. For me, it was an overview, but it was I've gone through a lot of different courses with Power BI, but this one seemed to be a little quicker, a really good refresh, and it explained things a lot better for me. Just on, you know, it just made a lot of sense. And I guess I didn't realize this, but this is his website is more of a community. So it's like he does a lot of, like every couple of weeks he does a webinar or a you know, just a meetup on Zoom, and basically you could talk with other users. He kind of leads it. Today they actually had a technical question thing. So basically you could go to the meeting, ask some questions, and then he'd send you to a breakout room with somebody who would try to solve your issues or help you understand what you're trying to learn with a specific example that you're working with. So it's just been a very helpful group that I've been working with. There is a 30-day challenge I'm working on just to do just a dashboard in a month type thing. You work with different users. Like I'm working with somebody from Denmark right now and a couple people from Germany, and we meet occasionally just to discuss different issues we have. And it's been very rewarding so far. I guess there's also a Power BI, he has a consulting program that he works with like you can sign up for a consulting program if you're looking for extra work. It's very, very, it's different than what I've seen out there. So if you have any interest in it, you can let me know. I'd be happy to share some links with you. But yeah, Avi is a very, like I've done a lot of speaking with him and directly. So it's a very good group. It's been a lot of fun so far. So
Is it subscription based?
there is a fee to get involved, and it's a one-time fee. So it's I don't know what the consulting program fee is. I think it's a little more substantial, but
Okay.
So.
Any questions from the online, Nicole? No? Going once, going twice. Any questions from anyone? All right. Thanks for the
Tim is
user share.
typing something.
Oh, someone typed. All right. Let's see what they type.
Abby's course is where I learned just sharing.
Oh, nice. Excellent. All right. I have a user share. Let me get this taken back over. My share will involve a feature of Power BI that I've found very helpful at my work. It is the scorecard feature that they recently added. Nicole, give me feedback if you are hearing, if not hearing me or not seeing me log into Power BI. The Power BI service is where reports are published and distributed and made available for others so they can use this platform and look at all the reporting that is being made across the organization. Reports are the typical way that you'd see data in Power BI. You'd go get a report. It's a visual, it's interactive. People can subscribe to it. It refreshes, on a schedule. One thing that exists in the service also is the new scorecard and goal feature. When we're in Power BI service, over on the side, they added in goals. And this area collects up scorecards that pull from any other report in the Power BI tenant of your organization and present them up. Let me jump to an example so you get an idea of that. We have at our company, some experimenting with this. When I'm pulling up here, this is a scorecard. This is the goals type feature of Power BI service. What it's doing is tracking and trending over time metrics from other reports or manually entered into this scorecard. This site is using a bunch of data from around the organization, things like from a sales report or a margin area, from an area of quality claims, a completely different report, from an area of some numbers they must have on time curing of pallets in the manufacturing floor. So there's a lot of randomness to this because it was just experimenting with what's possible. But the idea of the scorecard, by reaching into other areas of Power BI, is to bring those measures together, provide indicators of on track or off target. There's even a little rule system when you set the goal up here that he brings in the number, and you can set a little rule on the scorecard. If it's below this or above that, it's green or it's yellow. And it will trend it and refresh that metric daily. So it proves this little spark line that you can see here that shows how it's going over time. And it has summaries at the top of what goals, what's on track, at risk, behind, not started. So it's a very powerful kind of umbrella to bring in other metrics. And the scorecards can be created by anyone in the organization for their needs or for their departmental needs, and they publish them, and it kind of bridges the gap around that we have a lot of reports with a lot of different data, but they can't all display one unified view of the metrics that are kind of more executive, or more trying to think of that level. So this is a very interesting and growing feature of Power BI. They released in November some more updates to this. It now supports deeper rule sets. It has wider colors and things it can do to the metrics. And you can add in security on top of this scorecard. If you're like, well, I don't want this metric to be viewable by some people, but I want this metric. You can actually line pick which metrics here are viewable because there's a whole security thing that has been added in the last few months. So I see a lot more future for this, and I think it will make its way across those organizations that have adopted the Power BI service as a platform, getting data out to people. So I thought it was a good thing to share and talk about. And it's not hard to implement one to see what it's like, just over inside the Power BI service. Underneath, you can create a new thing in your workspace. It does require a Power BI Premium. It is not a pro-only feature. When you have a premium capacity in your workspace, you can just say create a scorecard. And it will open up a way to name that. I'm just going to throw together a test one. Not here, I guess. Hold on. I have to go to one of my test areas. Oh, that's why. There we go. Creating a new scorecard. Calling a test. I'm just going to throw it in a new workspace. All right. I put in my premium capacity, and I have to set the description, workspace, test.
Paul, this is kind of a nice shortcut for all of the feature. I mean, you could create this manually, but it's giving you a shortcut to dig into these reports you already have created.
Correct. And provide a way to trend them over time. Maybe the report you're pulling from is not really a report that's meant to be trended. It's just like a dashboard, and it's just got the speed that the car is going right now. With the scorecard, you're saying, I want that speedometer and I want it shown here, and then it will keep track of it day by day by day.
That work, like, so let's say you have reporting that comes through on a month to date only. This trended even if the report only up to
So the question that Scott's asking is, if a report is built and it's showing a month to date number, what does the scorecard do when it's asked to display that visual and then trend it? Yeah. And yes, it will pull in exactly what the metric is off the report, which trended may get weird. So it will require a little bit of thought to say, okay, is what I'm pulling into this scorecard and it's going to trend over time make sense? Otherwise, this spark line is just going to look like an ever increasing line or flat because it's not really showing you a change, because what you've pulled from is a year-to-date number that's just going to keep increasing.
Yeah,
versus
that
a
would be year-to-date performance as far as payment to target versus quantity.
Yeah, so Scott's saying a year-to-date performance versus an attainment of target type of display. So yeah, the scorecard isn't real smart. It's just going to take whatever the report had on it for that metric and bring it over here for display and then keep track of it day by day. So there are cases where you can make a scorecard and be kind of like, oh, that's not what I intended. You want to pull a metric that does make sense, like you're going to go check it and write it down over here on a scorecard because that makes sense to trend.
Paul, just a reminder to repeat the questions in the room.
Yep, will do.
Does it need to be in a workspace?
Greg's question was, does it need to be in a certain workspace? It does need to be in a workspace in premium capacity. So
It can go across.
It can go across workspaces, yes. What you're seeing here, can it go across workspaces was the question. And what you're seeing here on my screen is, these are metrics from at least, I can see 4 different workspaces and 10 different reports. So, any other questions?
So I have a comment around this is, be aware that what you are creating is a snapshot data set of all of these KPI metrics broken out by these goals. You could leverage this in a number of different ways to create a Power BI data set that is based off of these snapshots that you can build reports off of in addition to these scorecards. That is one area that I think a lot of people miss in the features that these scorecards bring, is that ability to create that data set and then leverage that in other reports is amazing. if you didn't know that it did that.
So unlike like a dashboard where you have multiple parts into one place, this quantifies it on top of this.
So Scott's comment was in addition, unlike there's Power BI dashboards, which are available. What's the difference in the scorecard? So a Power BI dashboard also allows you to pin visuals from other reports into one dashboard from across different reports. It does not, we've had some issues. I don't believe, Chris, you can correct me or somebody can correct me. You can't go up to other workspaces. So your dashboard can only bring in and pin visuals from many different reports in the same workspace. It also does not trend the same way the scorecard does, nor does it have its own goal comparison system. The dashboard is just take this visual and slap it onto a single spot. So I have very little use cases for Power BI dashboards. In our company, I don't think we have but one. I think they're going to go away in the face of something like this scorecard. Any other comments, questions?
So Tim wanted to know if you could drill into the data behind the scorecards.
That's a good question. What the scorecard is doing is keeping track of its own data set, like Chris mentioned. So it's copying over that snapshot. And I believe you could go in and click on, like I'm clicking on the actual, in this case, the metric, and it's keeping track of its own snapshot of this over time. If you wanted to go back to the actual report, I believe it knows what report it came from, so you should be able to get there. I've just
It
a little
does.
new,
There's
so
the little Power BI icon or graph icon in that. There you go.
So right here, we can actually go to the report where this metric came from. If we want to actually get to the report, which has the full data set, maybe a bunch more drill down functionality, you go to that report. Correct. That is true. So the question was, do you have to have access to the workspace where that the report, the original report is, so that you can bring that metric over here into the scorecard? And the answer is yes. You, as the scorecard creator, must have access to that workspace so that you, when you want to add a new metric on here, it will ask for you to pick it from a list of reports you have access and workspaces you have access to. So the question is, as the consumer, not the creator of the scorecard, so that whoever is going to come in here and look at this, do they need to have access to the workspace? No, they do not. Because you now have created a scorecard in a different workspace which has its own security settings and permissions, which in this case, this is a workspace by our Seattle plant. They have control over who sees this Seattle workspace. They have pulled in numbers from reports that the person creating the scorecard had access to that the people in Seattle may not. So there is something in consideration there. I think there's some security questions it might raise. Good point. Any other comments or questions?
I would make a comment there is that the thought around how you can make a scorecard and share the information out is that this repeats the behavior that many analysts have, which would be doing a screen grab or a copy and paste or download to Excel numbers and potentially sharing this out. But this shares out a much finer grain of information, right? It's a singular KPI with snapshotted over time that then gets automatically shared in a managed way versus copying and pasting into, Excel or Gmail or something along those lines where you lose all visibility to it. So, and you're just getting access to this KPI and scorecard and not that underlying report. So if that user wanted to see that story behind the details, right, click on that. If they didn't have access to that story, they wouldn't be able to go in and see that. So,
yeah. Good point. Thanks, Chris. Any other comments or questions? Kelly's looking pretty pensive. You sure you don't have a question? Okay, okay. All right. Yep. Wallow's comment was having issues with the report where these metrics are coming from. If they're refreshing properly, there's something wrong with the metric on the report, the scorecard is going to pull in the wrong metric. There's no obvious way how you make certain the scorecard is pulling the right information. You might have to rework the scorecard if your reports are often reporting the wrong number. I'm not certain there's a good answer to that yet.
Do they run at the same time as the data set update, or can you set them to run in offsetting time frames to check that data first before it runs?
So Scott's question is how does this scorecard refresh? Do you set the timing of when it goes to pull these metrics from that report? Does it base on the report? My understanding, this is really new, is that the scorecard knows the connection to the data set. If it sees the data set refresh, it will react and pull in a new metric, because the Power BI service knows when the data set that's connected to get refreshed.
Only daily? Only once a day?
But the question is only once a day. I'm not certain. I believe it's only once a day. If anybody else knows, feel free to speak up.
Paul, we have a question from Tim in the chat.
Yes.
Just started playing. Can you not set a target to be less than, like if it was a defect goal? In other words, smaller is better.
If I understand the question, it's asking like, can you set a goal so that it would have that rule that if it's less than the metric you're putting on there is less than a target number, make it visible and lit up or at risk? My understanding is yes, that's the power of the rule set behind the scorecard.
Or if it's less than, it's a green light, and
Yeah.
it's good.
Yep. So if it's less
Right.
than, green light and it's good. Yep. Great. Any other
Okay.
comments or questions? Okay. And this is the open call for any other quick user shares.
Paul, I am going to stop the recording and start it back up again to split the two presentations.
Okay, that'd be great.
Give me a second here.
I think you're assuming we're done with user shares. I
If
know
we're
Kelly
done
was
with
just
user
back there
shares.
warming up one, weren't you, Kelly? No? No? All right. I try, but people turn me down.
Okay, here we
All
go.
right.
I'm stopping.